Rev up your engines!
It's time for Show Off Sunday, where everyone has a chance to show off their own car, and here's this week's winner!
Hey guys, this is my 2001 Honda Insight, also known as the first hybrid ever sold in the US, beating the Prius out by 7 whole months. The Honda Insight was built in Suzuka, Japan from 1999 to 2006. It shared the same assembly factory as the Honda S2000 and the Honda NSX, and like the NSX, it has a purely aluminum construction. My car has the only available option for 2001, air conditioning, and my car in total weighs 1,878 pounds. At the time of its production, it was the most aerodynamic car ever made, and to this day remains the most fuel-efficient vehicle sold in the US. The EPA estimates the Insight at 61 miles per gallon on the city, but many owners have been able to achieve upwards of 90 miles per gallon by making slight modifications to their vehicle's IMA system. But today, I want to show you the highlights of the Honda Insight as it sits, many of which are overlooked by the car community, and finally, what it's like to drive. The aluminum panels of my car are finished in new Formula Red, but Monte Carlo Blue and Silverstone Metallic were two other options if you didn't want to stand out too much. One of the Insight's most distinguishing design features are these side skirts, which almost completely cover the rear wheels. In the owner's manual it says to take them off if you're going to put it in an automatic car wash, but it's funny of them to assume that I'd be doing that in the first place. Something else I find interesting is this ridge behind the rear wheels. It's kind of basic and it's just a line, but I find it interesting nevertheless. Some of you watching might be thinking, this car looks an awful lot like a Honda CRX or CRZ. It has the small size, the upright rear window, and is very low to the ground. But this design has been streamlined into a shape that looks very early 2000s. Under the hood lies a 1-liter naturally aspirated 3-cylinder engine. It puts out 67 horsepower and 66 pound-feet of torque. With the hybrid system engaged, it outputs a total of 73 horsepower and 91 pound-feet of torque. This engine is also capable of lean burn, which means it can run with an air-to-fuel compression ratio of 25.8 to 1. You might notice the conventional battery sitting in the engine bay, but this car does not normally use a conventional starter due to the start-stop system. Starting power comes courtesy of a 10 kilowatt-hour battery mounted behind the seats, and it sounds like this. As some of you may know, this car has a manual transmission, unlike the CVTs and Priuses and automatics and Kia Hyundai products. This is possible because the hybrid system in this car does not work like those systems. It has regenerative braking and start-stop, but the electric motor alone cannot move the car because it is connected between the engine and transmission, so it can only help the engine. This is why the system is called IMA, or Integrated Motor Assist. The only other cars like it are the first generation Civic Hybrid, the Honda CRZ, and second generation Insight. Although you can't use electric power alone, the manual transmission more than makes up for it. Even though this car is incredibly small, people of all different shapes and sizes can find it comfortable in this cabin. I'm about 6 feet tall, and I have plenty of headroom, plenty of legroom, and I feel like I could drive this thing for hours without getting uncomfortable or tired. If you take a look at the gauges, they are all LCD digital, just like the Honda S2000s. It shows your speed in huge numbers and has comprehensive readouts for your gas mileage, regenerative braking, and electric motor assist amount. It also shows you the battery charge levels and would show the fuel level, except mine broke after I was rear-ended on the freeway. Another unordinary interior feature is this steering wheel, which is straight out of the Honda S2000, something you won't find in the Civic from this era. When I bought this car, I was really blown away by all the features this car has that my Toyota pickup did not, including power locks, power windows, power mirrors, air conditioning, heating, seat belts, a working horn, working windshield wipers, headlights, hazard lights, a safety rating, and finally, an engine. Surprisingly, even though this car is super tiny, I haven't found anything that doesn't fit in the trunk. I've had seats, coolers, a full-size cello, heck, even I fit back here. Oh. I'll be back in a little. There is also a secret compartment underneath the trunk that can carry anything I would ever need, such as my car care supplies, jumper cables, backpacks, and more. There are also storage pockets here, here, and here, so I never run into any problems with holding my stuff. Then there are a few aspects of practicality that this car has that really shouldn't be ignored. For one, the tiny size, which basically means in a crowded city such as Los Angeles, you will never be left looking for a parking space simply because you didn't fit. Also, due to its incredibly small size, the turning circle is minuscule, meaning I can make U-turns in residential streets. And finally, you have the option of taking advantage of hybrid parking and the carpool lane, if you spend $25 on a sticker, which I didn't because I hate it. It's incredibly fun to drive. I mean, the steering is super responsive, the gear changes are quick. I mean, a little notchy, it doesn't like to be revved out much, but it's fun, very fun car. I mean, I can dart around these corners, and there are very little times where I feel bored driving this. My older car, which was a 1986 Toyota 4Runner, it didn't have anything, and it got really terrible gas mileage. It would die all the time, it would break, and at one point I just decided I was tired of spending so much money trying to get every leak, every seal replaced or fixed. The differential was leaking, power steering was leaking, it didn't have brakes. It was a little bit of an expensive car to keep running. Every single time I drive this car, something amazes me about it. The amount I spend on it, how fun it is, everything about it is just pretty amazing. And I hope you viewers find this car to be somewhat intriguing as well, and not just another lawnmower Honda that you see driving around the street at 3 a.m. Like I mentioned before, and like you probably know by now, this is a hybrid with a stick shift. I'm not just moving this around for no reason. You can really feel the difference in power and the difference in torque. So right now, it's just a gasoline engine running, but as soon as I drop it into second and give it some beans, the IMA system makes up the difference. And second gear, surprisingly, can go almost to 60 miles an hour, which I don't even know if a Corvette can do that. But I mean, this is a lot slower than a Corvette. So one thing you might be wondering about as well is, where does the hybridness really kick in? And that would be the start-stop technology. So a lot of cars have this now, but this was the first one that did it, and it doesn't have a conventional starter. Instead, when I come to a stop, I put it in neutral, and then once you get under 25, the engine shuts off and it's completely silent. We put it in first, the engine starts back up again, and now we can take off. The system actually scared me when I first got the car because I didn't really understand how it worked. I was used to putting it in neutral and the engine stayed on, obviously. And so when I was going up a hill, put it in neutral, the engine turned off, and I forgot to put it, well, actually I had the clutch pushed in, so it wasn't in neutral, and I started taking off again, and the engine would not turn back on. I was stuck rolling down the hill wondering, how does the engine turn back on again? So you gotta put it in neutral again, put it in first again, and then you're good to go. Thank you so much, Scotty, for giving me the opportunity to show off my car in front of all these people, and I hope everyone learned something about the 2001 Honda Insight that they didn't know before.
Well, that was this week's video, and remember, to have your car video highlighted here on my channel, check this out! So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell!